Welcome, everybody. It's Rex Sikes, and you're now tuned into All Things Rex Worldwide. And I am so glad that you're here. It's another Thursday. In fact, it's the Thursday before Christmas. So before we go any further, have a Merry Christmas. Past Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa coming up, and of course, New Year's. So happy to give you a holiday celebration wish at this point, and to say that I'm glad you're here. As of course, we record every Thursday at this time, and I'm glad that you're here. You can ask questions and leave comments from the Los Angeles Facebook Tribune page if you're watching this live. And if you are watching live, please do comment, please do ask questions, like the show, and of course, subscribe. My guest today is somebody that, if you watch the show, if you're a friend and fan of the Los Angeles Tribune, you know her well. It's Dr. Natalie Forrest. And Dr. Natalie Forrest, besides being an integral part of the Los Angeles Tribune, is a global bilingual intuitive transformational mentor, a spiritual confidence and self-love coach, and an international best-selling author and international keynote speaker. She's a TV host. She has a host show right here on the LA Tribune, her show, an event producer, and first and foremost, she's a humanitarian. Now, through her unique process, the hidden power of patterns, she's enabled thousands of people to find their mission and create the life that they desire. Dr. Natalie firmly believes that everyone can be happy and successful with great relationships and with as little stress as possible. How? We're going to find out by asking Dr. Natalie. So I'm going to welcome Dr. Natalie to the show, and here she is.
Thank you, Rex. Great to be here.
It's great to have you here. Happy day before Christmas Eve day.
Yes, happy day before Christmas Eve, before Christmas morning, before Kwanzaa, during Hanukkah, Chinese New Year, the Three Kings. There are so many celebrations. Happy holidays.
There's something like 16 or so, all at this time. And
Yeah.
Christmas had the sun celebration in December, or the solstice. And so however you celebrate or don't celebrate, we wish you the merriest of all times.
Yes.
So I want to ask you, because it's so good to have you here. And let me first say, you are, a major part of the Los Angeles Tribune, and you do have your own show, and you also are part of other shows. There's the leadership series, and we were talking earlier. Why don't you give us a rundown right now about the different kinds of shows that you have on the Tribune, so that people, if they aren't yet a fan or have not yet watched your show, they know where to go.
Well, thank you. Well, we have two shows, really. One is my Tuesday show, which is very simply called the Dr. Natalie Show. And I think it's similar to your format. I bring in individuals, some are well-known, some are not so well-known, who share their stories, because I believe it's really important that everybody understands we're all unique, we all have talents, and wherever you are right now, we've all had or still have our challenges. And then, of course, the other show that you're referring to is Leadership Live with the one and only Mo Rock. And currently we're on a December break. And then hi, Darlene. And when we start back up in January, we're going to go bi-weekly, because that's that big panel conversation where we have 5-6 panelists about one issue that is related to leadership. However, we may decide on any given week that leadership can be identified. So that's always fun, because we get to hear different perspectives and people learning from each other. All of them are experts in their own right, of course.
Wow, you're so elegant with the description of that. And I appreciate it.
I could call it a free-for-all.
And sometimes it is, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So with that in mind, though, also, I want to go back to your introduction, and I'm not even able to find it right now. Here we go. And you say you're a global bilingual intuitive transformation mentor. Now, I got to admit, Dr. Natalie, that is one heck of a mouthful.
I worked hard on phrasing it like that, too.
that is so. I get the bilingual.
Well, I think it's really, I threw the global in there because I want to make sure that people understand that we're not limited by physical location. I mean, I've spoken on virtual global stages as well as in a number of different countries. So that makes it global. And I believe in service. So wherever I am needed, I will be, however that is going to be possible. And that's why I threw the global in there, because I believe that that is really important for people to understand. And language shouldn't be a barrier either.
Well, I'm not bilingual. I mean, I
Well,
truly,
you speak, I'm sure you speak more than one language in one way or another.
well, perhaps, but I mean, I have not mastered the fluency of any other human tongue that other people understand.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough.
But but I get the global. I mean, especially now, because I know that both of us do similar things in travel and events and stuff like
Right.
that. So you can go to different countries, and that's one way of being global. But the other way of being global is that you could stay in one place and people from around the globe can come to you. And certainly I
Mhm.
did that for a decade.
Right.
But not only that, because I know you have too. But the other thing is now with the internet, as you point out, the ability to reach corners of the globe
Yeah.
all around the globe that we couldn't. It does. I mean, and so your reach, is enhanced by
Mhm.
all these different things, and especially now with your shows and the other things that you do for the Tribune as well as that. So we're now at global bilingual, and we go to trans intuitive. So now we're going
Yes.
to take the intuitive.
Okay, we're going to take the intuitive. Well, that's my spiritual side, right? That's where I am intuitive. All of us are. I'm taking it to another level. My first business was actually a spiritual business, completely just with readings, Reiki, and those sorts of things, energy healing. When you put all of that together, it helps me work better with my mentees. And I mean that in the sense of I pretty much know where they are, what's going to happen, and I intuitively know what to ask them to do next. None of that is like woo woo stuff. But if you take it to another level, then, the readings and things of that nature, some people get intimidated by that. So for a while, I actually took that out. But it is who I am, and I'm not reading people walking down the street or anything like that. I always wait for permission. And even in my coaching and mentoring, I don't do readings necessarily, but I do feel the energies. I do have certain things that I know immediately. And therefore, that's just what it is. Take it or leave it. So that's the intuitive part.
Awesome, awesome. Well, and that's wonderful. And there is a lot of confusion about that, and the confusion. Used to do a lot of keynote speaking around these various topics, and I was
Mhm.
always amazed at sometimes the questions I would get, or the level of not skepticism, but actually fear. Like they would be like, can people do these things? And if they could, isn't this? And so the only way I know how to describe it is to say it's everybody does it. It is a human. It's a human. It's a natural human ability, but that everybody has developed. I mean, in other words,
Yeah,
it's kind of like I have muscles. Everybody has muscles, but some people made bigger use of their muscles than I have.
absolutely. And that's the key thing, right? Like really, I was born that way. I remember when I was younger, walking into a room and answering a question that was posed, and everybody was aghast pretty much. I guess that's the only, they were like, no, 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 she's a child, she can't know these things. But things happen exactly like I said they would. But because of the reaction in the room, I started pulling back. And of course, in society, I mean, just think about James Stewart and Harvey, right? Are you really talking to that white rabbit? Okay. Nowadays, we all have cell phones, so we all pretend to be talking to somebody else. And then we've got all the societal pressure. So at one point, we're really so filled up with stuff that we don't know what our talents are. And when we do want to follow our intuition, we're worried what somebody else is going to say. all it takes is really retraining, like you said. It's a muscle. Whether you talk about the third eye, whether you talk about just through meditation, through that connection with you and spirit, and really bringing it back together. Because so far we've been taught to separate the spiritual and the human world, but it's one. So I used to teach a lot more about this, and I'm going back to that, connecting with spirit guides if you believe in them, meditation, figuring out your intuition, doing things with closed eyes, feeling the energies of somebody walking into the room. All of that is, like you said, abilities that we all have. We just have shut them out because of the pressures. So it's really fun reconnecting with those.
Well, imagine that you're a child in a grade school class and you don't have the same kind of clothing or brand or designer clothes now.
Yep.
I remember in first grade that this one girl was horribly ostracized by the classroom because she was a poor kid. The students they didn't want to sit with her because of the clothes that she wore, were kind of like hand-me-down homemade clothes. Imagine if you exemplify, or if you exhibit some form of intuitive capacity or brilliance or whatever it might be, that oftentimes the very same people are shut down, and you learn to inhibit the things that you otherwise would benefit not only you but other people.
Absolutely. And I just see that Dan asked that question: how do you help others develop their intuition?
Bring that up. There you go. But you beat me to it, so we'll put it up, and then I was going to ask you that.
And I think the reason why I just saw it is I think I probably answered that, but it all starts with meditation or alone time and really reconnecting with the self. And Dan, you have a book out, so you know a lot about what's going on. You've done some really, really important personal work already, but taking it to another level, it just means you reconnect even more, even deeper. There are some exercises one can do to really understand the difference between the intuition and the human agenda that we all have. Because even people who are intuitive or who are oracles or whatever you want to call them, they usually have mentors as well, because we do live in a human experience right now. And that means we're sometimes blinded in our own lives. So we always need outside guidance as well.
Well, this is important. And one question that I would ask you is that people will come to me a lot of times and they go, I trusted my intuition and it was wrong. And I would argue that the intuition wasn't wrong, that maybe you misinterpreted what you thought was your intuition, or you said, what do you do in a case like that where people, how do you answer people who they want to use their intuition, but then they also might do something really silly because they haven't learned to listen to themselves. They don't know what their intuition is.
I think that's almost like a trick question to me, because I don't believe that our intuition is ever wrong.
I agree.
Okay. So that's number one. It might not lead us to what we want.
Right.
But that doesn't mean the intuition is wrong. It might just mean that we need to actually learn whatever our intuition told us to do. Okay. But I think most of the time our intuition is not wrong. It's the overarching human agenda. Okay. Where we don't listen to the signs. So as an example, I had a connection with somebody, and initially everything went really well, and I thought we were working well together, and then over time, like there were little things I was like, that's weird, but I didn't listen to it. I was like, no, because I'm also very loyal, so I didn't listen to it. So my human agenda came in of wanting this relationship to work out. It wasn't a love relationship. It was work and, like sisters and stuff like that. But I wanted it to work. I wanted it to be the way that I thought it was. And then finally, I was like, hit really in the face, so to speak, just symbolically speaking. I was like, no, this is enough now. So I could say that my intuition was wrong at some point, but it wasn't. It was always right. I just didn't listen to it.
Well, similar kind of story, but it was a love relationship. I love this girl very much, and at some point, I kept thinking, I got to end this relationship. There's something, I got to break this relationship up. I got to break it up.
Mhm.
And then I decided I am gonna hang in there, and I'm gonna hang in here, and I'll make it work. And then she broke up with me, and I was like, had been hit with a ton of bricks. I was
Yeah.
so upset because I'm like, I knew all along I should end this, but now she's dumping me, and I was so mad at her and at me. And I was like, how could I let? But I mean, there was this inkling, but I fought it. Now
Mhm.
later, I guess you could say it proved me right. But there are people who will today wake up and go, I'm going to go buy a lottery ticket. I think I'm going to win. And then they don't win. And they go, well, what was that? Or on the other hand, they go to the casino and they go, oh, black 21. And I'm going to put all my money down and they lose. And I'm like, well, just because you thought that this number or that you might win the lottery doesn't mean that that's your intuition.
Right. Absolutely. And it doesn't just not mean that. That sounded weird. At the same time, it also has to do with what are you learning through that process. So, for example, I'm not a gambler, so I cannot relate to gambling at all. I'm just like, no, 25 cents is a lot of money. I'm not putting it in that machine, right? But on the other hand, it is like, okay, so if you put it in, what are you learning from it? Like, what is the adrenaline rush that you're getting? Are you putting too much money down? Do you value money? All of those things come into play. It's always about what are you learning from it, because you know very well that life is happening for us.
Right.
Therefore, whatever we engage in, it's something that we need to learn right now.
Well, and that's a beautiful way to understand it, because I think, if a person can say, I believed I was paying attention to my intuition, or I was, and it didn't work out the way that I had
Hmm.
hoped it would, then what is the lesson in it for me? What it
Right.
happened for me so that I could learn something important. So I put all my money on Black 21. That could be the lesson, or it could also be that there's something else there that you needed to learn by having done this that you
Yeah.
wouldn't have otherwise got. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
oh, look at that. No rock.
He's in the house. We were talking about him behind his back.
Yeah,
Yay.
Mo said to me, your ears were burning, sir. I bet. Mo Rock, if you don't know, is the CEO and owner of the Los Angeles Tribune. And
Yeah.
so we're glad to have you pay attention and listen. That's great.
I think he's checking on us.
It's probably true. So this is really good. Now, and I'm going to come back. Dan has another question, but I'm going to come back to that. We've got global bilingual intuitive transformation.
Yes. Transformation. Transformation is, for me, leading you back to who you really are and transforming whatever's not working in your life to work for your life. So I'm helping you transform back to your original self. And to me, transformation is really bringing it all together. Sort of like I mentioned before, why do we separate spiritual from quote unquote human reality? It's all one. So, a monk can live a great spiritual life somewhere. And then when they have to be in the real world, they can no longer be a monk. So therefore, we're here to connect them. And that to me is the path of transformation, where we're able to connect all of it and be who we really are here to be, in that we all have talents, we all have gifts, we all have a specific purpose. In addition, of course, to the main purpose being that we're here to be a human being. We're here to be ourselves. And so in that, bringing it all back together, transforming whatever is not quite working at this time, that's the transformation. And I'm really being a mentor in that I help guide you through it. I give you some tools. And I use, of course, as a former teacher, the Socratic method. So I'll ask you the questions to help you see and to help you figure out the answers yourself, so that you actually have the learning that you can then use next time something comes up. I'm sort of in the business of putting myself out of business through the transformational processes, if that makes sense.
No, I mean that's your person after my own heart. That is. I always think that the true a catalyst goal is to put yourself out of business. In other
Hmm.
words, you don't want people dependent on you. You want them reliant on themselves and to move on with their lives. So you give them whatever you give them in order for them to be able to do that, and then you send them lovingly on their way.
Right.
You know, it's the people who are trying to collect followers and fans and and sell them one thing after the other
Yes.
that to me give everything a bad name, I guess you could say, and
Yes.
business over people. So and as Dr. Natalie has done, she's moved to the question I was going to ask, obviously, which was what does a mentor do with what we. So you beat me to that punch again,
Yes.
and and I love you for it. But given that you are, you're a best-selling author and an international keynote speaker, you have this background in intuition and transformational art, so you are a mentor, and you're also a spiritual confidence and self-love coach. So let's tie this together now. You have this unique process called the hidden power of patterns, and you help people live better lives, happier, more successful, and great relationships with less stress. So I said we're going to ask how, and that you could answer that. And I know that's a lot for a little bit of time, but and then we'll go back to some of the questions that people are asking. But so this, how do you help people with the with this process? I mean, what is the kind of awakening process that you help people through?
Well, I usually start with looking at patterns. And this comes from my background actually as a historian. So while I'm intuitive and all of that, my background as a historian has taught me a lot about human beings and sort of the waves that we go through, the patterns that we have. And whether you call them patterns or behaviors, take your pick. I call them patterns because that's how I see the world. The patterns that we have, a lot of them we're not aware of, and they have so much power over us because we're not aware of them. So in the process, we need to figure out what are our patterns, the conscious ones as well as the unconscious ones. And so we start with the conscious ones, and then we start moving into the subconscious mind. The human latent potential pretty much is all up in here. And there are little things, and we've all heard about this negative self-talk, but it is the patterns that you have. For example, in the morning, when you wake up, are you aware, are you conscious of the first 5 things that you're doing?
Right.
And those first 5 things, are they contributing to co-creating a positive day? Or are you so much on autopilot that it doesn't really matter what you're doing? Or are you on autopilot and so in the trenches of what is going on around you that you're actually subconsciously setting yourself up for a very bad day every single morning? And so we got to start looking at those things. And it's simple questions like, when you wake up in the morning and you look outside and it rains, what's your reaction? And if it is, oh my God, it's raining, what am I going to do? Then guess what? You just made your whole day, right? Or can we now change that up a little bit and say, it's raining. That's awesome. The flowers need rain. It's going to be green tomorrow. We'll have enough water to drink. How can we start rephrasing some of that? And in that process, of course, we not only look at the patterns that we have and which ones we want to keep. Like there are some that you may not like, but I want to keep it. So, that's my choice. So I'll keep it. There are also, the more general patterns in our lives that help us with our purpose. And in that we can go through a process, what have I learned from this person? What have I taught this person? If we go through a very specific process, it helps us see much clearer where we are, why we're here, and what things have possibly gotten us a little off the straight and narrow path. And that doesn't mean it's right or wrong, because I don't believe in right or wrong in that sense. But, where are we right now, and how do we get back, or how do we get more to our purpose, our happiness, and all of that? And we explore that by looking at these patterns, these behaviors, creating little, I call them little trigger flag posts. Whoa, this is triggering me. Do I want to react, or hold on a second, I actually want to respond to this one, not just react. So let me take a breath and respond instead of just reacting out of the blue. Those are some of the things where we start out. And then, of course, the person that I work with decides what they do and don't want to modify, and then we work on that. It's a very specific process. And at the heart of all of this is self-love and self-confidence. One doesn't go without the other, because if I'm willing, or beginning to be willing, to look at my patterns, I have to love myself enough to do that. And I have to be confident enough that whatever is going to happen because of me switching up patterns, modifying or identifying them, that I can still handle whatever life has in store for me, and however people around me might react. So that's sort of like the long-winded answer to your question, I think, Rex.
I think it's fabulous. I love it. You're connecting people up to their own resourcefulness, and you're helping illuminate things that they may not otherwise see, and giving them the opportunity to choose and to respond, as opposed to react out of conditioned habit, or out of ways that they have routinely done that. So I love it. It's wonderful. I want to ask you, because we're going to be coming up on our break here, and a little announcement from the Los Angeles Tribune. But before we do that, how can people get in touch with you? And since you have your own show, could you put your website or how they can reach you in there for me, so that?
Oh, absolutely. Well, the best way right now is really social media, because my website is being, hopefully, at this point, reiterated. There was a crash and all of that. So social media is the best way to get in touch with me, obviously, under my name, Natalie Forrest, because I don't have anything to hide. And I'll put that in there in a minute. Absolutely. That's the easiest way. You'll find me everywhere.
And you are everywhere. That's cool. And you're here at the Los Angeles Tribune, and they can see your shows. You said Tuesdays. Yes, every Tuesday. Let me do the math. 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, noon Central,
which makes it 6 p.m. Oh, yeah, Central. I forgot Central, which makes it 6 p.m. in the UK and 7 p.m. in Germany. Awesome. And I forget my Australian friends, but they're like 15 hours.
They are. They're 17 or so hours different from where I am right now, or it could be LA time. I don't know. It might be different. Yeah. But they're in our future. We somehow crawl around behind them in their past, and that is awesome. So what we'll do right now is we'll take a quick break for the Los Angeles Tribune to honor your workplace, and and we'll be right back. Right. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the Los Angeles Tribune. Since 1886, our name has been a part of the world of journalism. We've earned a reputation for being a publication that practices integrity, authenticity, and responsibility. For general inquiries, contact today. Thank you on behalf of the Los Angeles Tribune team.
Awesome, and we're back with Dr. Natalie Forrest, and I'm so glad that we are. Let me say that for all those people who are watching, you still can ask questions and comment on the show right now while Dr. Natalie is here, as well as obviously to the recorded shows. And let's see here. We're going to do that. There you go.
Well, I typed it a little longer, but it's all good.
You're great. And you did it better than I could have. That's for sure. Now Dan had a question. Let's see here. Where are we? Where is it? Oh, right here. He's asking about synesthesia.
Oh, okay. Yes, of course.
Well, let's define synesthesia for those who may not know it. Usually, some people will say it's the simultaneous overlap of representational systems or senses. You see colors. I mean, you feel colors, or you smell sounds, or things like that. So there's I would call it a more sophisticated wiring in some ways than some people are aware of, and basis for many talents, and for some people can be the basis for something that they don't like. They can have some uncomfortable stuff. So Dan's question is, or you may have a different interpretation. I mean,
no, that was perfect. That was perfect. Yeah, and that's why I love it. I love it actually because it is almost deeper. Intuitive people, mediums. We have those clairvoyance and all of those things. So some of us just know, right? So how do we do that? Well, it is sort of like synesthesia, because you smell something, you hear something, you know something, you think you can feel it. So it's actually almost like a plus. It's just that how you train it. Sometimes you may smell something, then you're like, that's weird, that shouldn't be here. But that doesn't mean that there's not something underlying. So in many ways, the heightened senses, I would say, are actually very good. They just require a little bit of a different workaround, or different work with, not work around, work with. We can then use them and see, well, since everybody's different anyhow, some people see, some people know, some people sense, some people smell, and some people can do it all. So it's actually perfect, and it doesn't make a difference on how we work together, since everybody's individual.
Oh, that's excellent. That's excellent. I have for a long time, in discussing things with you, and getting to know you, I love the idea of patterns and habits, and being able to recognize those things, and the idea that you were a historian, so you could look back at history and go, here's where history repeats, and here's the patterns, and maybe here's why. But in doing that, you also enhance or can develop your intuitions, because as when you study or make a study of these kinds of things, the awareness that you have increases, where a lot of people, I think, in daily life, where people have some difficulty, is what's running the show is outside their awareness. We're talking about the unconscious habits or the unconscious patterns. And yet at the same time, I would argue for what we said earlier, things happen for us, not to us. That is all good. That ultimately it is all good. And that where most people suffer or have difficulty is in their judgment of it. In other words, if they call it unwanted and bad, or a devastation or a problem, then it's kind of like what we focus on is what we get.
Yeah.
And you earlier had said, they can shift and they can focus on, like if they get up in the morning and it's raining, they can react the way they always have and not be aware that that's what they're doing, and just do it day in and day out, day in and day out, and they just continue until the day they wake up and go, I don't have to do that anymore. I could focus on, the plants need watering, and this is great, and the animals are getting drinks, and the air is being cleansed. So it's all good, but what stops most people is they're thinking about things. And so I want to ask you about this, because you see this all the time on the news. There's a fire in a neighborhood. They go to one person and they go, what are you going to do? And they're wailing and crying. We've lost everything. You don't know what we're going to do. We're now homeless. You go to another person, they go, oh, thank God, it was just crap anyway. I got to get rid of it now. This, we'll just rebuild. So it's really, anything is possible. But for the person who doesn't yet believe that, how do you help them bridge from, nope, I don't care what you say, it's still a loss. I'm still devastated. Because it's moving someone from their patterns that they routinely do to awareness and becoming new, or thinking to do a new thing, or find the learning in it.
That's a very important question, because I also keep re-emphasizing, and you do this as well, that we are human beings having a human experience, right? So we are going to feel loss. We are going to feel pain. That's a given. And there's no reason why we cannot or wouldn't. I don't like the word should. I'm trying to go around the word should. But yeah, why there is, let's just say we all feel them. Okay, we all do. I feel them too. The thing is that in the moment when something happens, we feel it, and that is absolutely fine, normal, human, whatever word you want to find for it. Okay, it can be very painful. Things can be very painful. The question or the change that we can start to make happen is, how long are we going to be in that state? And so when something happens, of course, there's devastation, there's loss. And then it is, okay, now I need to get a hold of myself. And I always say, take a breath of life. Take a breath, stop, and then take the next step. My mom used to tell me that whatever happens to us, we usually see the benefit 5 years after, 5 to 10 years after. That is true to some degree. I think the more we are in tune with who we are and creating happiness and peace from within, the quicker that process is. So when we're feeling pain, when we're feeling devastation, when we're feeling disappointment, it's normal, it's fine, nothing wrong with it. Then if we take a breath and we start going, okay, whether you want to do the Ho'oponopono prayer, whether you just want to take the breath of life, whatever works for you as an individual, you need to stop for a second. And in that moment where you stop, where you take that breath of life, and it really is good when you do the heart coherence, right? You just go, okay, hold on a second, let me breathe, let me think. And by slowing down the breath, the adrenaline will go down and you'll be more able to look at things more objectively. Okay. At some point, when you do enough of this work, you'll almost be like a witness just watching all of it. Okay. However, you take that breath, you slow everything down. Hi, Cindy. You slow everything down, and then you're able to objectively look at it, and you can say, okay, this was a loss. This really, really, excuse my language, sucks. What am I going to do now? And then you can say, okay, what am I getting out of it? What am I actually thankful? What can I be thankful for right now? And it sounds counterproductive, but once you start asking yourself, what can I be thankful because of this? Then you start in the direction of more quickly altering your perspective, changing your perspective, and seeing this in one way or another as something positive. That is a process. It does not happen from now to 5 minutes ago. It is something that we need to slowly but surely get into. I mean, I remember, being a regular driver, getting upset when people cut me off. And then I started my process. And I was like, this is stupid. I'm cursing this person out. That gets my adrenaline going. I'm ready to hunt that person down. You know how all of that goes. And that's not worth it, because I'm actually hurting myself. I'm hurting myself so much in that instance. It's my car. It's my energy. I'm no longer paying attention. Versus the minute that somebody cuts you off, where something negative, quote unquote, happens, you go, whew, this is over. I'm taking a breath. Wow. Thank you. I'm okay. My car is okay. Everybody else is okay. Thank you so much. Just by using the word thank you, and Rex knows all about gratitude. Yeah, but just by saying thank you and really taking it in, and then choosing you versus everybody else. And by choosing you, I mean, is instead of doing what everybody else does, going with the flow, which again, we're human beings, but taking that breath and saying, whoa, hold on. What's important right now for me? What's important right now for my daughter? What's important right now for my friend? What's important for that dog across the street? Once you start looking different at things, your perspective is going to change. And therefore, even the most devastating human experiences can be turned into something positive, transformed, whatever term you want to use. And in that, responding to something that Rex said, which a lot of people say, which is history repeats itself. No, it doesn't. People repeat themselves because they're doing the same patterns. And once somebody changes a pattern a little bit, everything starts to flow with it. And of course, that one person that's going to change stuff is usually hated for a while because they're not going with the norm. They're the outsider, the weird one. Okay. But all we really need to do, and it sounds easier when I say it like that than it really is change our perspective, change our attitude. And that's a process that we all go through. I mean, our life is a blink of an eye in the universe. So, let's enjoy that blink of an eye and create it for us, because that's why we're here.
Well, it's really beautiful, and in a given context, our lives are shorter than that of the mayfly.
Yeah.
The blink of an eye, we think, oh, mayfly lives a day or whatever it is,
Right.
in any kind. Well, that's truly beautiful, and I really like that you corrected the phrase "history repeats itself," because it's truly, there is no such thing as history.
Right.
I mean, when you think about it, it's just memories of something that somebody,
Yeah.
the story version somebody recorded. But people do repeat themselves, and what I find really interesting, is we have this saying: if you always do what you always did, you always get what you always got.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in which makes sense, right? If you're repeating the same patterns, why would you expect it to be different? And of course, they say if you do expect it to be different, that is the definition of insanity, because why it'd be crazy to think it's going to be different if you're doing the same thing you've always done.
Right.
So there's that. So they go, if you're doing, do that, then if what you're doing isn't working, they would say do something else,
Mm-hmm.
and they would try and then people try and figure out, like, what should I do? How should I do it? And there's got to be a way, and I don't know what to do. And I would argue for do anything else, because what you just said is essentially, and if you agree with me, is that the patterns are going to keep going until you do something different. And when you do something different, then everything has the potential to shift or change. It may not be that incredible amount of shift. It may be some tiny incremental shift, but it has the opportunity to change because you're no longer doing the same thing again and again.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter what you do. You could skip, jump, laugh, read a book, go cry, scream out the window, whatever it is. You're changing the pattern.
And it goes from there. It takes the next step, right? Because if I'm changing something, I may not ask you to change. I may not I may not want to be the leader of a new movement, but just by me doing something different, I'm changing the energy around me. And we know that as an individual, we impact those around us, willingly, unwillingly, just by being who we are. And that then can have a ripple effect, a trickle effect. Just like if we only listen or do what everybody else is doing, that impacts us too. So it's a two-way street. So yes, if we change something just for us, and that's the important thing, it's not narcissistic or egocentric. If we change it for us, because we are impactful, anybody is impactful just as a human being in their own lives. That means I'm choosing me, because that's why I'm here. Because I'm choosing me, it may impact others, it may not. That's not my concern. And the more we grow and the more we reconnect with ourselves, the bigger our energy and the circle will get that we are actually communicating with, because we're drawing in like-minded people.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. The other thing that I would ask or comment about is the notion that, we make a case that pain is a signal. It's an alert. It's becoming awareness. Like if you have a rock in your shoe, it hurts, so to take the rock out of your shoe. And what a lot of people do, probably more often than not, is they focus on the pain and not what the actual message is.
Yep. Yeah, I had that conversation with somebody the other day. Again, bringing the mentoring and the coaching and the intuition and the energy together, right? When we're talking about the energies and pain. Okay. In energy, we're talking about the left and the right side. The right side is male. When something on my right side hurts, it's related to a male entity or something male in my life. When my left side hurts, it's related to something feminine in my life. So I'm not going to name her name, but she knows who she is. If somebody has an issue, and I'm going to switch it up a little bit so I don't give it all away, with the right knee, for example. Number one, it's a leg. Okay, that means you're not moving forward with something. Number two, it's the right knee. That means it's related to some kind of male in your life. They may be alive right now. They might have already transitioned. It doesn't matter. There's some unresolved issue that you're not moving forward with. That's because it's the right side of the leg. So yes, as Rex said, I can complain that my right knee hurts and oh my God, I need to go to the doctor and maybe it's really bad and I need to wear a brace. And now I'm focused on the bad stuff. I'm just focused on how much it hurts. Of course, I'm co-creating more pain. Yay for me. So I'm creating more and more pain for me because I'm so focused on the pain. Instead of saying, okay, why is there pain? Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes we really, really break something. That's also a sign. That's like you being told to, you're not going to use your legs right now. You're going to lay down and think. Okay. But it all is related. So thinking about where does something hurt, or why does it hurt is the better question. What is it trying to tell me is really important. And sometimes in that you can go back to the old traditions, like for example, having a stuffy nose. In German, there's a saying, ich habe die Nase voll, which means I have my nose full. It doesn't really translate very right, but it means I've had enough. I can't take it anymore. I've had enough. So whenever I have a stuffy nose, I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? What can I no longer deal with? All of those things come together. And we can, by focusing on the why is this happening and what does it mean, we can eliminate a lot of pain more quickly. As well as we can, of course, thereby heal ourselves, every single one of us.
Wow. Very, very cool. This is really, really, really a great explanation. I appreciate that so much. We're running clockwise to close to the end of the show, and we could go long, certainly if you have the time. But what I wanted to make sure that I do is allow you to speak wherever your heart leads you to speak. And you're an author, keynote speaker. We talked about the self-confidence and self-love, coach in that kind of regard. So, well, first, before I give you the platform, you want to mention your book?
Which one? Yeah.
Which one?
I have a couple. I think the most important ones right now are really revolutionize, live your life your way. That's an introduction to what I'm talking about and the hidden power of patterns. And then the last one that I wrote, well, I'm writing one right now, but the last one that I wrote is called Be You. And it's related to the issue of performance and how we judge ourselves. That's a very simple, quick and easy read, but there are also tasks in there for you to fulfill. And it helps you just realize that we should not depend on other people's judgments of ourselves. So thank you. Yeah, those are two of my favorites.
And they can get them
on Amazon, or reach out to me and I'll send you one.
It's that go-to place without saying, right?
Yes, it's that place. Yes. I think Revolutionize might no longer be on Amazon. Last time I looked on there, they have like some weird pricing. But I still have a couple. So yeah, just reach out to me.
Okay, they can reach out to you. That's fantastic. And so going back to my other question before asking you about the books, in terms of anything that you feel especially led to share with the audience tonight or today, wherever you're.
I don't know. It's been such an interesting kind of last 2 weeks. The one thing that I always want to talk about is the fact that we are all unique and needed. And I said this a couple of times already. About 2 weeks ago, I got this little thingy into my head comparing ourselves to candles. And I actually did my last show last Tuesday. I did a shorter show, but I talked about how we're all like candles. And it just is something that's really important to me. Regardless of where you live, what you have, what you look like, the feeling and the understanding that you are needed in this world. It doesn't matter what job you have. It doesn't matter, like I said, how much money you have. You are needed. And understanding that and appreciating yourself for that is one of the most important things. So many people try to live like somebody else, become like somebody else. And I can't deal with competitions. To me, that's just silly. It's different in sports, I get that part. But if we like consistently compare ourselves to others, even if we try to do it in a great positive way, it's still a comparison that tells us we're not enough. And you are enough. You are perfect. And we can have a long conversation about that. But you are needed. You are perfect. You are not a mistake. You're not broken. You don't need to be fixed. All that is needed is for you to love and appreciate yourself so you can walk forward with your life and be the gift that you are. That's what matters to me. That's what lights me up. And that's what I think we don't have enough of, because there's constant comparison. There's constantly people telling us how to act, what to do, and how to do it. And that dims our light. You need to love yourself. That's the oxygen. Then you need to connect with your purpose, and you need to know that that is your purpose, that confidence that you'll get from loving yourself fully and entirely. Bad, good, whatever you want to call it. There's the yin and yang. That's us. We have it all in us. Female, feminine, male, masculine, whatever you want to call it. So accept that, take it in, write a brag list about how amazing you are, and then go back out in the world after you've done that internal work and be who you are here to be. Because I see life as a puzzle. I see humanity as a puzzle. And maybe that's the intuitive, the medium in me. I see it as a puzzle. And if we put a puzzle together of all the millions and millions and billions of people, everybody is unique, and every little puzzle piece has its place. If we try to cut off a little side of a puzzle, it's not a puzzle piece. It's not going to fit anymore. It's not going to work anymore. So don't change who you are for anybody. You're that little puzzle piece that is needed. And if you understand that, you'll get just to create that inner peace and happiness, and you'll understand how magnificent of a life you can co-create.
That is so absolutely beautiful. I really love it. And what it leads me to think, is that all life forms on the planet, plants, insects, animals, reptiles, amphibians, whatever, are necessary, or they wouldn't be here.
Yep.
The universe doesn't make mistakes, and it doesn't create unnecessary things. And they have either a symbiotic relationship or a parasitic relationship, or you or I may not like certain elements or things about, what's on the planet, but that very thing that we don't like people don't like sharks, but sharks have a purpose, and there are things that live because of sharks and die because of sharks. It's all a purpose. So for a human to get on the planet and feel that they don't have a purpose, or that they don't have a place, or that they aren't necessary, or that we don't need them to continue to be who they are as who they are, is just a ridiculous notion. And especially at this time in the holidays, where people feel sometimes disenfranchised. I mean, they do all year round, but they do certainly because of the holidays, or they feel disenfranchised from their friends or family, or they don't feel significant, or they begin to feel other than, they feel less than glorious because of the pomp and circumstances around these things. This is especially a time when they need to understand how truly important and necessary they are, and that they are part of an entire system.
Mhm.
While they may not seem to be the important cog that some people want to be, they are still an important part of the entire system. So I truly,
Absolutely.
truly love what you said.
Well, I mean, if everybody was the big honcho on the spotlight, who's turning on the light? So, yeah, I mean, it's that simple, right? We need the person to turn on the light. Without them, there would nobody be in the spotlight.
Right.
So there is no. My daughter's first acting teacher told her once, there are no small roles, only small people. And that's the same in life. There are no small parts in life. They're all important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know that the job, the avocation, the passion, the lifestyle, the interest, I mean, all that makes you you in terms of what you do is to help people be who they are
Mhm.
and to live a life fulfilled because of that, you know. And that's, I think, truly an important message, because people, it's not that we can't improve ourselves or develop ourselves. I mean, or want to change ourselves in different ways, or learn a new skill or a new language or a new talent, but you really are already perfect. And, you really are already succeeding because you're here,
Yeah.
and so it's such a beautiful message, and such a wonderful opportunity for people to connect with you, and to feel the effects of your guidance and mentorship.
Thank you. Yeah.
I certainly benefit from it. I certainly love it, and appreciate it, and appreciate you.
Well, so do I. And it's what we do, right? We're here to just guide people along the way, because it would be sad if all these beautiful lights kept being dimmed. And I think now is the perfect time. Yes, we're evolving. We're perfect right now. We're going to be perfect the next minute because we're evolving. That's part of the process. That's part of the deal of being a human being. And that makes it fun and interesting. We don't necessarily know what's around the corner in our own lives. We may know it for somebody else, but we don't know it for our own lives. That makes it fun. When we were kids, we used to love it, not knowing what's around the corner.
Yeah, it's amazing how we get trained out of the love of mystery and adventure and
Yeah.
play and fun, and we're taught to be serious, and stop imagining and stop doing these things, and yet the very things that we grew, where we learned more than any other time in our life, was when we loved the mystery, and we loved the adventure, and we loved the play, and we did that.
Yeah. Well,
Now,
and we got
we
really,
use
yeah.
cribbage.
Yeah, we got really engaged in it, right? Last month I was having different performers on my show, dedicated the whole month to it. And we were talking about the fact that acting, for example, is one of those things where you can be somebody else. And whether it's acting or something else doesn't mean, but you get to explore all different sides. And so I immediately thought again, of course, of kids, how they do imaginary games, imaginary plays, and they'll do it forever. I mean, sometimes you got to call them and say, honey, you're really not that person. But they're so in that world and they're trying it all out. A lot of adults have lost that ability to just let go of that outside. Just even simple things like, when you feel it, cry. Who cares what the rest of the world says? It's good to cry because it's a release and then you're done. Otherwise, you're like, it's all boiling up the whole time. So it's really about just living the experiences that you're having and fully engaging in them. That's the old saying, the present. You're the present. You're the gift. So enjoy the present. Otherwise, I don't know. What are we doing?
Well, before we have to close out here, the amazing thing is, if you watch children, especially in an acting class, I mean, a lot of early acting classes and some adult classes would have children playing animals, because that's what they know. They don't know, adult stuff, but they do know children's stuff. So, I mean, animal stuff. So they're a bear, a tiger, a kangaroo, a rabbit, whatever. And oftentimes what you see is those children totally committed to being that animal. They play, they're doing whatever their version of. Now, fast forward, they're now adults. They now take an acting class and they're told to play an animal. And you watch, as an acting coach or as a participant, you watch those who can really still go into that, and those who go, this is silly, I can't really do this, and they do it half-heartedly.
Yeah.
Because they've learned to stop themselves from diving in. And it really is just a permission thing. Well, the kids don't have to give themselves permissions. They just do it because they're spontaneous. But as adults, we almost have to say, it's okay if you do this. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because, that's where the analytical mind kicks in, right? What are people going to think if they see me like this? And the answer is, who cares? Because while you're engaging in that imaginary play, you're actually really trying to understand that other thing, animal, whatever you're playing, even a tree. You really, that is something that actors, that kids, that some of us do very well. We're just like really connecting with it. And that's what I love about spirituality, really connecting with things. But actors, children, they are that. You ask them to be a flower, and they are that flower. They're moving their hand. It's like they're the flower. They're trying to understand how all of it works. Well, that's really opening you up to full acceptance as well. So once we've lost that, we know that we've got blinders on. It's like, I like this, I don't like this, I'm going to go this way, I'm going to go that way. And that's really pretty lonely and pretty boring.
It's an amazing thing, because it's kind of like going, well, that would be silly, or that's stupid. The second you hear yourself say that, I would then want to go, who says?
Yes.
Who said that? Who taught you that doing that would be silly, or that would be stupid, or it's insignificant, or it doesn't matter? Because it's certainly not the child that you were. Child who just went, yeah, cool, let's go. And then somewhere down the line, they went, so people can be just truly amazed by how they can free themselves up if they just let go and let themselves do that. So they should get your book.
Right. Well, but I do want to add one other thing in there, that if it doesn't feel right, not because it's silly or stupid or somebody else might see you, but if it doesn't feel right to do it the way that somebody else is asking you, then I would also say don't do it. Wow. And, I'm thinking specifically about an acting class that I was once in, and they said, do this thing, do this monologue. And I did the monologue, and they were like, well, that's not how we wanted it. I'm like, well, that's fine. That's not how you wanted it, but that's how I would play it. And it's just like, I can't do this other thing, because that would just say, it wouldn't be silly. It's just, I couldn't pull it off, because I would never do that. It's just, it's just not me, so it's like two-edged. On the one hand, yes, give yourself permission, engage in that. If it's something like silly or what would other people say, then you need to question it. I absolutely agree. But if something inside of you says, no, I can't go there, it's just not, I could not do that for whatever other reason, and you analyze that reason, that's okay too.
Well, and I agree with you. When my point was about playing an animal.
Yes.
About being the child inside, and allowing yourself to cut loose and let go. Not to fulfill the not necessarily to fulfill the requirements somebody else imposes on you.
Right. Yeah.
But to allow yourself the freedom of expression. That if you go, I would wear that hat, but for me it would look stupid, or it would be silly, or I could never get away with wearing that because it's just not me. I would say, well, explore that a little bit and go, how come? And then, but if somebody else is trying to impose something on you, yes, I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
So this has been really beautiful and really wonderful. And I also want to get back up there that you can best be found on social media under your name, Dr. Natalie Forrest.
Yeah.
And you're on Facebook.
And I want to thank Dan, because he's been really active tonight. So thank you so much, Dan.
Dan is wonderful, and Dan is a marvelous author in his own right. And I'm going to the wrong place here.
And I see Cindy as well. So thank you. Yeah, Bubba was here earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. If everybody who was watching live commented, we would have lots more comments. But I'm so grateful for the people who actually comment and who engage. Ask questions and comment as we go along. And after the show will stop. It'll be a recorded show. And the best way that people can help you and I in our shows and to help other people is to share the Dr. Natalie Show with others and to share all things Rex, worldwide with others, because we can't reach everybody alone, And so, you may know somebody who could benefit from what Dr. Natalie said today. So please share it, and then continue to leave comments and continue to help pay it forward, I guess is how we would put it.
Yeah, because you never know. Like you said, you never know who's going to benefit from it. Years ago, when I started a business, I did not want to do social media. It was like the last thing I wanted to be. And then my friend at that point said, well, what if somebody in Japan needs you? And I was like, oh, and then another word came to mind, which I'm not going to repeat. And then I went on to Twitter. So it's like, okay. Got me.
It's really amazing. I mean, it is true how small the world has become as a result of social media and the way that we can connect. Sadly, it's like most everything. It's used for less. It doesn't rise to the highest level of its usage. It usually gets caught up in some kind of lesser crass commercialism or something like that. And we do that with so many of our technologies. Mm-hmm. But that said, that means it's an opportunity for those of us who watch and those of us who care to actually help move that upward, and to make it a better experience than what it has been for most people.
Absolutely.
So I got to tell you, thank you so much for being here. This has been fabulous. I know it's late where you are, and so I wish you a good rest of the evening and or morning.
Morning.
And of course, the happiest of holiday wishes, a Merry Christmas to you and yours. And I'll be seeing you. We're hardly out of touch. So
never. I couldn't bear it. I
No, I know, it's wonderful. So I'm so glad that you were here. You've made my show that much more happier and healthier because of your presence. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rex, and thank you to everybody else. Happy holidays.
And happy holidays to you. Yes. And thank you. That's and good afternoon. Being an observer is a lifelong habit. Taking action that is needed with a bitter pill to swallow. Thank you. That's so kind of you to share.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Natalie, hang out just a moment. I'll close out the show and I'll be right back. Thank you so much. And I want to thank you for watching and paying attention. And of course, I would be remiss if I don't tell you that I have a guest coming up next Thursday. We record every day. Every Thursday we stream live, and we record. The show Thursdays 3 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern time. And what did Dr. Natalie say? Like 11 o'clock in European time. So, and in Australia, we have no clue yet, but we'll figure that out. So I am the author of Life on Your Terms. And if you would like a copy of that, you can go to Amazon. It is I think just a powerful book. I'm very happy with the reception that I'm getting and about the book. And it's not because I'm getting the reception, it's because people are actually reading the book and using it to help transform their lives. And so if you go to rexsikes.com/book, I'll also gift you with a $497 training. It's been valued at $497. It's training on mastery. It's called the Mastery Loop. And it is about learning how to manage your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, and your behaviors so that you can get better results. And it's a bonus for those of you who go to Amazon and purchase the book. For $20, you get a $497 online training that you can use to apply the stuff that you're learning in the book. And so I just wanted to be sure that you know that is something that is available for you. And that I'll be back next week and each and every week. Be sure to tune into the Dr. Natalie Forrest Show and be sure to tune back into All Things Rex. And I hope that, again, you have a very merry, wonderful Christmas and a holiday, however you celebrate. So with that, when you consider everything a blessing, everything is a blessing. So please do celebrate everything.